Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Uranium Energy. It is time for another update, and it seems we have followed through our expectations of the bearish scenario in the previous video with another extension to the downside. And of course we will be discussing all about that today and the implications of such a pattern that we have formed in this area. But before we get into all those details, I want to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And before we actually get into the details, even of the larger time frame, I want to highlight a few updates for the channel. So firstly, we have opened memberships. There are a couple of perks that come along with joining. You can check those out by clicking the join button. There is also a video you could be watching for the entire update. Additionally, we have opened a newsletter and we are going to create a community space, most likely on Discord, but this will initially come only to those who have subscribed to the newsletter. Now, to get on with the video, here we have been tracking this idea of a 1-2 setup, and this is the area where it actually splits into a couple of branches. So initially we were looking for a potential series of 1-2 setups, and technically we can still track this exact expectation, where now we would track this as an internal wave 3 to the upside. Many options to even track all of this really, but we need to be aware that we have failed to create an impulse within this area, meaning that I cannot really be looking for just a simple, let's say, double 1-2-1-2 setup where a third wave would occur in more direct fashion. It could technically work out as a series of 1-2 setups in a specific scenario, but that is just very unlikely. And what is probably happening here is a more substantial top forming in a 5-wave pattern. Now, this could be another wave 1 up, part of a larger wave 3, but at the same time, this could be a more substantial top within this larger wave 1 to the upside. So in either case, we would expect a more substantial correction, but depending on which structure ends up unfolding, we could be looking for a wave 2 correction, probably somewhere into the wave 4 territory we have had just now, before we extended to new highs. Or potentially we could get a correction that could delete all upside that has formed on this chart from the beginning of this entire uptrend, from April 2025. Now, nonetheless, we are looking for a more substantial top to likely form within this area. This has been the premise for quite a while now, and within this structure we have been tracking this diagonal pattern in a 1-2, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th. We have had great success on this chart, and even though we weren't tracking this as a diagonal structure initially, we attempted to actually track an impulse, we did get an early hint when this structure would have failed to build an impulse, and we had over 10 successful trade setups within this push alone, which was followed by this high probability area of support, this high probability accumulation zone that we expected to form a 3-wave pattern within and create continuation in a 5th wave to the upside. This has followed through wonderfully. I really cannot complain in terms of this structure, but I could in fact complain about the internal pattern forming within this area because we have been looking to build an ABC structure. Now, this is not a problem. An ABC structure is expected within a 5th wave of a diagonal pattern, but within this wave C, we were looking for an ending diagonal once again to form. We are still holding, as of now, the area of support for such an expectation. We still have some room even down to the $14.4 level, and if I were to potentially track a larger leading diagonal, we could allow this to extend even ever so slightly lower at the $14.2 level, but nothing significant changes really. And now I would like to see a 5th wave form to the upside. But in the previous videos, from a smaller time frame perspective, we were highlighting the risk of creating an initial 5-wave move to the downside. We were tracking this in the yellow interpretation where we had a 1-2, 3rd, 4th, and we were looking for a 5th wave that could have occurred. In the previous video, we only had a single wave to the downside within this 5th wave. I could have still considered this to be still part of a WXY pattern, in which case a more substantial bottom did make sense to form here in a wave 4, but this was only going to be available as long as we didn't extend within another low in this area, because in this structure we are tracking a leading diagonal in yellow. So in the 5th wave we needed to build an ABC pattern to have a full count. We didn't have the full count previously, but now that we do, I cannot dismiss the probabilities that have strongly improved for a bearish 1-2 setup. So while I'm not looking for direct continuation lower, I would expect after a 3-wave correction to form at least another 5-wave move to the downside based on this structure alone. Now, it is true that this is within a smaller time frame, so we should still not necessarily focus too much on the exact count, and we are still holding the area of support so we can still track continuation in a 5th wave, but the internal pattern that simply is applicable to this structure strongly suggests to me that after a 3-wave correction into the area of resistance between the $16.7 all the way up to the $19 level, I would be looking for at least another 5-wave move to the downside. I have to say, if we actually build such a pattern, I would strongly believe we wouldn't be looking to extend higher afterwards. We would already far exceed the expectations in terms of proportions we would expect for such a wave 4, and I would be even inclined to believe we may have formed a more substantial top in this larger 5th wave in white. Now, it is difficult to determine which structure is more likely to unfold. From a larger time frame perspective, we are still holding the area of support and we still can track continuation higher. From a smaller time frame perspective, we have a pattern that suggests continuation to even lower prices after a correction. So this is quite difficult from a count perspective, but from a support and resistance levels perspective, it could not be more clear. Below the $14.2 level, the structure will not have any indication we should expect continuation in a 5th wave to the upside. On the flip side, if we break above the $19 level, it would be a strong signal that this structure is more likely going to extend in the follow-up wave 5. So at this point, I really couldn't tell you which pattern is more likely to unfold. I would be watching, however, for the resistance levels in yellow, and I would expect at least a relief rally into the area of resistance, but unless we break the $19 level from the smaller time frame perspective, the pressure remains still for another low, and I will be also watching structural resistance levels we have within this area, and here at the $16.4 level we have formed a few more significant tops previously, and additionally we have here a more substantial top around the $17.7 level, as well as here at the previous wave 4 in yellow, at around the $18 level, very much in line with the 61.8% retracement. Now, at this point, whether this will form a 1-2 setup and we will see a 3rd wave unfold to the downside in an impulse, or if this will be just a simpler A-B-C pattern, for that we will need to be patient to actually see it unfold, but keep in mind the context of where we are within this larger trend. We are looking to form a 5th wave within a wave C within a larger 5th wave. This is not going to be a high probability wave that we are going to get. The largest portion of this uptrend in white is already done, and to be honest, the largest portion of this uptrend in green is already done. Yeah, we only expect one more high, so really there isn't necessarily much we expect to still form from the pattern we are currently within, so I would strongly suggest to assess your risk before you make any decisions. Now, once again, the 61.8% retracement is the level I'm watching that needs to hold for continuation within another high in this area. And as a disclaimer, sure, other counts, other patterns could work out, but this chart has been following through very nicely so far, and these are my expectations. The count is suggesting lower prices, the structure from a larger time frame perspective is suggesting higher prices, so we need to watch the levels of support and of resistance. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. And by the way, don't forget to join the membership if you want to support the channel. Members will also get priority on requests when there is a video slot open. But yeah, for now, this is it. Have a nice day. Bye bye.